Zack Stephenson of Coon Rapids was chosen by Minnesota House Democrats to replace the late Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman as their new leader. Stephenson was a close friend and pallbearer at Representative Hortman's funeral. His day job is being a Hennepin County prosecutor. He has had a high profile. He's had a high profile in the Minnesota legislature since he was first elected in 2018. In terms of legislation, he has led the repeal of the marital rape exception law, successfully championed legalizing marijuana, and so far pushed unsuccessfully for a law to pass sports gambling. And DFL House Leader Zack Stephenson joins us now. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And I know not only were you a close friend of Melissa Hortman's, you were actually her first campaign, or her campaign manager in her first winning campaign in 2004. This has to have been a very difficult few weeks for you with the resurgence of this horrible violence, gun violence, which claimed Melissa and Mark's life.
That's absolutely true. Thank you. Yeah, I met Melissa Hortman when I was 17 years old. I'm 41 now. So for more than half of my life, she's been a close friend and mentor. And, her loss this summer was obviously devastating, not just for me, but for the whole state. She was the most consequential speaker in Minnesota history and leaves behind a huge void for all of us. And the events of the last few days have certainly brought that back to mind. And it's terrible. Political violence has no place in our society. We are a society that settles our disputes at the ballot box with words, never with bullets.
Despite a groundswell of support for gun control organizations like Moms Demand Action, Protect Minnesota, if you talk to legislators, they'll say there aren't the votes for a assault weapons ban. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree with that. I think it's a little premature to say that. And I think if folks are listening to the families of the victims, if they're listening to their communities, if they're listening to the state, then we'll see meaningful action to decrease gun violence in Minnesota, because regular Minnesotans are demanding that. A lot of time, these measures that people think are so controversial, they are at the Capitol, but when you get out into ordinary communities, they aren't. People don't understand why we can't enact common sense measures like banning weapons of war from our streets. It doesn't seem controversial to them.
Well, we've had a 2022 poll that we've used. It shows that there's a big split between urban and rural. There's a 69% of urban voters in 2022 supported an assault weapons ban. 51% of rural voters were opposed to it. So that's something that you have to overcome. I do want to ask you about the Minnesota red flag law, because one of the things that the governor talked about in trying to find common ground is the red flag law. You're a prosecutor, and you are obviously dealing with this. In 2024, the first year it's been enacted, 135 requests were filed, 71% from law enforcement, 16 from family members, 95% were granted. Is there a way to kind of beef up or spread information about the red flag law?
I would be very interested in that, because it is a law that is working, that's saving lives today. And it's a great example of what I was talking about a minute ago, because that's a law that was broadly supported by the public, but still took years to pass. I voted for that bill in 2019 and 2020 and 21 and 22 before we finally were able to pass it in 2023. And, a lot of people thought it couldn't happen then either, but we kept pushing and we got it done. And so our caucus is extremely committed to ensuring that we end this kind of gun violence in Minnesota, and we'll keep at the fight as long as it takes.
And you say that you think there is a chance of passage, even though a lot of legislators you talk to privately say, hey, it's not going to happen, and Republicans certainly say it's not going to happen. But you have also promoted some tough legislation. Several times you've been knocked down and it's gotten through. One was the legalizing marijuana, and then the one that you continue to push that really the public seems very interested in is sports gambling. Is that going to come up again?
It's an issue that is persistent, and the public has a lot of interest in it. In my new role, I probably won't be carrying a lot of bills myself, and so I won't be authoring that, but I don't think that's an issue that's going away anytime soon. The public's very interested.
All right. And just in general, going forward, you have a possible legislative special session. Looks like that's going to happen. Governor Walz says he'll call it. Do you see anything else coming out of this session, or will it just focus on gun measures?
I think we need to have a narrow focus. The special session's being called in reaction to a horrible tragedy, enunciation, and a surge of mass gun violence. We should be focused on the gun violence. We do have a regular session coming up around the corner where we can look at a lot of other issues. But for now, this is a difficult enough problem that it deserves special attention, and we should pay attention to it very narrowly in the special session.
And I'll put you on the spot. It looks like the governor governor is going to announce he's running again. What's the feedback from your caucus?
The governor has been an excellent governor of Minnesota. You look at his record, the things that we have been able to accomplish under his leadership. If he's going to choose to run again, I'll be pleased to support him.
Okay, well, Representative Zack Stephenson, thank you so much. We really appreciate your coming in this Sunday morning.